Hello, welcome to another episode of Garden to Table with Rose, and I am Rose. So, I'm not usually in front of the camera, so this is a different kind of video, but this is my first video of the 2025 gardening season, and so one of my goals for this year is to post more videos in terms of what I'm doing in the garden. The past year, or maybe even two, I've just been doing garden tours, like once a month of my front garden and the back garden, because I've been really busy, and so I at least try to get those up to kind of keep a record of the garden over the years that I've had it. But this year I do want to do more in terms of more filming of all the stuff that I do, which is a lot. So I'm starting this with talking about what I'm planning for my upcoming garden. Now it is President's Day, which February 17th, I believe, here, Monday. And so it is very cold and very snowy here in southwest Michigan, where I live, zone 6A. My last frost date is not until about May 10th. But nevertheless, there are still a lot of things that need to be started from seed and need to be started pretty early. So at the end of this video, I'll put a little clip of what I have started already. I've started a few things, just a couple of trays, and I have those going in my little grow station in the basement, which is where I start all my seedlings. So I'll insert that at the end, so things are getting going. But one thing I want to kind of quickly review is my method. The method to my madness. Now, in case you don't know, and you haven't seen any of my other videos, as I said, I'm gardening in like Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is southwest of the state, and I have been gardening in my semi-rural, semi-suburban backyard and out front yard for I don't know, this whole thing maybe 4 or 5 years, and each year I've added a little bit. So I started with just lawn, all grass. My house sits on about half an acre of land. My house is very small. It's a ranch, so most of the lot was grass. Definitely. And so over time I removed a lot of the grass and planted a lot of different things. I started off as a food gardener. My whole thing was growing food, stuff that I could eat, stuff that I could can or freeze or whatever the case may be. So I started off growing a lot of veggies, and I planted a bunch of trees, fruit and nut trees. And so as it stands right now, I have 30-some fruit nut trees on my property. All of them I have planted. And I planted them all from bare root, like twigs, basically, because that was the most cost-effective way. Fruit trees are very expensive, and nut trees. So it takes, 3 to 5 years for one of these trees to actually start to bear fruit. And so far, I'm not sure how many years I've been planting the trees. This is probably going to be the 4th year for most of them. So far I've gotten a couple of nectarines off of one of my nectarine trees. I've gotten a bunch of peaches off of three of the peach trees. And then I've gotten, this past season, quite a few apples from 3 of the several apple trees that I have. And so I have not had the pleasure of harvesting from my other fruit trees, and I do have most everything I can grow here in my zone. So I have apple trees, I have pears, I have peaches, I have nectarines, I have apricots, I have a nectarcot, I have persimmons, cherries, plums, almonds, chestnuts, and I think in big trees. I have a couple of those out there. So a lot of fruit and nut trees, and I keep them all pruned fairly heavily because I keep everything at a dwarf size, and that means I don't let any of my trees really get over 6 foot high, and that's because one, I have a small lot, and two, I need to be able to harvest the produce, and I'm not too keen on being on tall ladders, especially the older I get. So I want things, trees, shrubs, uh, all of my fruit to be at a size where I can harvest most of it from the ground. And so I do prune on a kind of religious schedule to keep them at the size I'd like them to be. And then I prune certain times. So I'm not just willy nilly out there pruning whenever, but I will prune typically um, right before the tree kind of wakes up or before it starts to, put on growth for the season. So early spring or late winter, however you want to define it, I'll usually prune around that time. And then I always prune sometime around after the summer solstice. So sometime at the end of June, I do a big prune, beginning of July. And then I may prune again, depending on how fast things are growing. So I have a religious pruning schedule, and I have a religious spraying schedule for my perennials, which includes the fruit and nut trees. And so I spray, I think it's about 3 times a year with a combination of horticultural oil and a copper fungicide to help keep pests away. And then I do some other spraying as well, depending on what pests I have to deal with. So I use neem oil quite a bit, and then BT for all the different worms and cabbage moths and things like that. And then there are a couple of others that I like that I'll use from time to time. It depends on what pest I'm dealing with. The other thing about my area is that we do get a lot of moisture, so there's a lot of rain, a lot of humidity here in the warm months, and so I do deal with powdery mildew a lot, rust, just fungal diseases on my trees and shrubs, and so that's another reason why I do regular pruning, is to keep airflow through these trees and plants, to try to reduce some of the moisture that's just sitting. So, anywho, that's a lot of information that I wasn't supposed to talk about today. I wanted to talk about my plan for the upcoming year. Now, I have gone through a lot of reiterations of my gardening plan. Like I said, I started off, I was a food gardener. Then I started getting really interested in cut flowers. And then I decided I wanted to grow up cut flowers. My initial thought was I could grow enough cut flowers where I'd have lots of flowers for me and friends, but also I wanted to sell flower bouquets. And I put in the effort to set up a little roadside cart with my bouquets, and I would post, when I have bouquets, which is usually on Saturday and or Sunday, and I would post that on all the local places you can post. And I didn't sell any bouquets. I have never sold one bouquet. So I did one season of that, didn't sell anything, and so I did not do the flower cart last year. I don't know if I'll do it this year. At this point, I've kind of given up on selling bouquets, but I will continue to grow flowers because it was first and foremost for me, because I love cut flowers. I love fresh cut flowers, and I love having them through the whole growing season all over my house. So anyway, how I stay organized. Now, I try to grow most things from seeds in terms of annuals because it's more cost effective. Where do I get my seeds? From several places. I get seeds from Johnny's Seeds, which is like my favorite seed store, but they're a little pricey, so I can't order as much from them as I would like. The Johnny's Seeds is a good one. I also get seeds from Baker Creek Seeds, which is reasonably priced, and they have great seeds and a great selection. So I love Baker Creek. I will get. I just started buying more seeds from M.I. Gardner, which is here in Michigan. They're also very reasonably priced and a very good selection, and it's stuff that obviously does well here in Michigan, since the company is located in Michigan. So I've just started ordering more from them, and they're expanding their selection. Matter of fact, I think I just placed an order for potatoes from them so that I can grow potatoes this summer. And then who else do I order from? Sometimes I'll order from Renee's Garden and Botanical Interest. Yeah, so some of the little more, I call them a boutique, I guess I would call them, ones. Sometimes I'll get them from them because sometimes they have good sales. Annie's, I think it's Annie's Heirlooms is another one that I've ordered from. And then Burpee, which is really expensive. They have good seeds. So what I will do is usually I'll wait till they have a buy one, get one free sale, which they usually will at the end of the season or in the winter or something like that. And then I'll stock up on some things from them as well, but they're very expensive Burpee seeds. So that's generally where I get all my seeds. Occasionally I'll get some free ones from here or there. I've ordered seeds from Floret, which does a lot of flower seeds. I'm sure if you're a gardener, you know who Floret Farms is. So I've ordered seeds from them. They're a little bit more pricey, so I don't order from them very often. But yeah, they have really nice seeds. And yeah, but Botanical Interest is one that I really like. I call it a boutique seed company because they're smaller. But they do wonderful seeds. They do beautiful envelopes, and it's packaged so nice. When you get their seeds, they come in this nice box with a flip top, and it has a nice little note on top, as I recall, that says basically thank you for ordering, that kind of thing. So great little company. But anywho, organizing my seeds. I use these. I think these are cases for photographs, maybe. But that's what I put my seeds in. So basically, they have these little bitty plastic cases inside of a bigger case. And I have two of these. I have one that I will put flour, one that I put just flour and herb seeds in, and the other one is for my produce, for my fruit and vegetables. And so I basically just alphabetically kind of organize them. So as you can see, these are from M.I. Gardner. These are aster seeds. So this is the A's, and this is my flour container here. And then, like I said, I have a big pack here of Johnny's starflower seeds. That's Johnny's. But like I said, I got one for flowers and herbs, and then I have one for vegetables and fruit. I think I got some melon seeds or something like that. The other thing I am doing this year is I'm trying to keep a journal. I'm trying to keep a garden journal. Now, typically I take notes during the growing season, but I just kind of put them in my phone in a note app. And I have a gardening section, and I just put all the stuff in there and kind of keep it that way, which works for me because I always have my phone with me when I'm out in the garden doing stuff. It's easy. But I've been hearing a lot of garden YouTubers talking about gardening journals and how nice they are to have and look back over the years of your garden and put pictures and all these notes. Yeah, I don't journal like the regular type of journal either, and now I see why. Because it's just like an extra thing that I have to do during my day, to pull out the book and try to remember to write notes, or to remember to go back to reference the book. So we'll see how this goes. I do like this planner. This one is from the Farmer's Almanac. And I've ordered calendars and stuff from them. It's nice. It's pretty on the inside, and it has, the thing I like about a lot of their calendars and stuff is they have all these little tidbits, and they talk to you about the different phases of the moon and folklore and all of that stuff is in here. So it's a pretty journal. There are some things I don't like about it. One, it doesn't have a loop for a pen, which it should. It should have a little, one of those little stretchy loops that you put your pen in. And also, it should have an envelope, or maybe two, in the front or in the back, like built into it, which would be great so that you could stuff little notes or receipts or whatever in there. And it also should have a bookmark, like one of those ribbons that you can mark your page with. That would be awesome. But it didn't have any of that. So I don't think that I will probably be using this again. I don't know if I'll be using any physical planner again. I may just go back to my phone. We'll see. But just quickly to go over what I have in here so far. Not much. Okay, so for this month, I do have a list of things that I need to get started indoors. Some of the things I've already started. As I said, I got a couple of trays. And those are things that take a long time to grow, typically. And so I've gotten those started. But this upcoming weekend, I do need to start some more things because the cool flowers, which are things that do well in cooler temps, those usually go out 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost day. And so in order to get those to the size where they're ready to put outside in the garden, which 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost date would be sometime in March, or the last week of March, or April 1st, we'll say. I need to get those seeds started soon. And so I have a note that says start cool flowers for this next weekend. And it says I'm planning to start Canterbury Bells, Foxglove, Delphinium, Bachelor's Buttons, Black-Eyed Susans, Feverfew, Snapdragons, Queen Anne's Lace, Ami, Dara, Starflower, Bells of Ireland, Scabiosa, and I also have Agrostemma, Forget-Me-Nots, Clarkia, Honeywort, Rebound, Craspedia, Saponaria, and Status. So those are just the things I want to get started, towards the end of this month. Yeah, some of these things one could direct sow, and it may even be recommended to direct sow them outside. But I have a hard time with direct sowing. Whenever I do it, my seeds end up everywhere. I don't care how careful I am, how many ridges I make to try to keep them where they're supposed to be. They end up everywhere. And then because I am a relatively new gardener, right? This is year 4 or 5 or something. Some things I can't identify when they're really small. And so I am sure I have probably pulled out hundreds of flowers or veggies or whatever over the years thinking they were weeds. So that's another issue. If it's migrated from where I planted it, I may not recognize it, and then I may pull it out. And then it just seems like when I try to direct sow these seeds, most of them, it's a disaster for me. So I try to grow everything I can inside, even though that brings its challenges too. And me and inside seed sowing just hit or miss, because sometimes things germinate well, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they die off when I transplant them into bigger containers. And so I think the key that I've come to for me is that I like to start things indoors, as much indoors as I can, but I need to start it as close to time to put it outside as I can. The less time it stays in my house, in my basement, the better off I am, because the longer it stays indoors, it seems the more problems I tend to have. And so I'm going to try sowing certain things later than I normally would to be able to get it out quickly into the garden once it starts to get warmer. Now this year, the one thing that's different is I'm on a very tight budget this year. I don't plan to spend any money on anything other than necessities. So, I'll need to buy fertilizer. I may need to buy a little bit of mulch, and then, stuff for pests. But I'm not buying plants. I'm not buying extras. I'm not getting loads of compost like I have in the past years, dump trucks of compost and mulch and all this stuff, which is very expensive. It all adds up. I've spent enough on the garden for now, and so I really want to work with what I have. So all of these flowers that I just listed off, for example, are things that I already have the seeds for, from last year or the year before. I'm not buying anything else in terms of seeds. I have ordered a few flowers because they are, and actually a couple of trees. I'll go over those because those are things that, the flowers are things that I can't grow from seed. And so it's easier to get little starts. And then I did order a few more trees because I was lacking in some areas. So what I've already ordered and have coming are some corns for anemone flowers, and they're multicolored. And then ranunculus, which is one of my favorite flowers, they grow from a corn. It's very hard to grow them for me because we're so wet here. They don't like to be really wet, but they like cool weather. So that means you need to be putting them out early, like early spring. But it's raining all the time here early spring, and they don't really like being super wet. So I have not been successful in growing them. Bottom line, what ends up happening is they'll be okay. I'll pre-sprout them indoors, take them out and plant them. They'll be okay for a little bit, and then they ultimately rot, little corms. And so I'm going to try again because, like I said, ranunculus are one of my favorite flowers. I'm going to put them in a raised bed and cover them, and try to protect them as best I can. I'm going to try again. And then I typically order Lysianthus as little starts, and I get my starts from Farmer Daily, which is an online company, and you have to buy these whole flats of them. So you have to buy like a flat of, I don't know how many are in there, 72 or something, of one thing. So usually I'll get a Lysianthus from there. This year I got 3 trays. I got a tray of Lysianthus, which I think I got kind of pink and white color. And then I got a tray of asters because I really love asters. And for me, they kind of take the place of dahlias because I haven't been very successful at growing dahlias or keeping bugs from eating petals of dahlias. So the aster is a big flower, at least the ones I've grown. They kind of remind me of a big mum, like a cutting mum. And so I really like those along with cutting mums, which I grow, but those are perennial for me. They have been coming back. So I ordered a tray of asters, and then I ordered a tray of celosia, a Selway mix. And the celosia is a very good filler flower. It kind of looks, kind of a little bit like a fan. It reminds me of a little bit of a fan. And it just adds a spike, and it adds a different texture and a filler to bouquets. And I haven't been quite successful at growing celosia. In addition to that, I found that the one year I did get some to grow, there's a lot of pest pressure here on celosia. So a lot of bugs attack it. Which I know a lot of people say that's okay because they tend to chew on the leaves and the actual flower is okay. But I don't want to attract more bugs. I got enough bugs that I'm dealing with. I don't want to attract anymore. So I got those 3 trays. Then I got a couple of trees from Stark Brothers, which is where I've gotten pretty much every fruit tree that I have. Stark Bros, yeah, I really like them. And so I ordered another nectarine, I ordered an apple because this variety was said to be very popular in my area of the Midwest, although I never heard of it. So it's called a Northern Spy apple, and it's supposed to be very good for all around cooking, that kind of thing. So I thought I'd try it. I got another apricot tree because I only have one. I have one apricot, and then I have a nectocot, which is supposed to be a cross between a nectarine and an apricot. So I got a second apricot tree, and then I got another sour cherry tree. Now I do have one sour cherry tree, I believe, or pies, basically. And then I have, I think, two sweet cherry trees, none of which I've ever seen a piece of fruit from because they have yet to set a fruit. But I'm adding those trees to the mix. And then, like I said, the rest of the garden, it's pretty full. Every year that I've had this garden, I've expanded. So I've dug out new beds or increased the size of beds every single year. This year's a little different also in that I don't have the bug to get outside and garden. Usually, I love being in my garden. That's my favorite place to be. But usually in the winter, I sit and I dream about the garden and what I'm going to do. And I spend my time looking through all these gardening books and catalogs and seed catalogs and, just coming up with all these ideas. And I didn't do any of that this winter. Not at all. A matter of fact, even with the seed catalogs I got, I just kind of quickly peruse them and push them aside. I just have a lot of stuff that I'm doing, and I'm not as preoccupied with the garden because I have so many other projects I'm working on. And like I said, I don't plan to really add a lot to the garden this year. It's pretty much set. Things have to mature, but everything right now that I had planned to do in terms of garden beds and putting in perennials is pretty much done. And so, so now it's just maintaining all of it. And yeah, I've been very busy. So, for those of you who don't know, I have been in pastry school for at least, I don't know, like last year. All the years are running together now. So I started off in culinary school to become just a pro home cook, as they call it. Basically, I wanted to be able to cook like a professional at home, not for a living. I already have a day job. And so I went to culinary school, and that was like almost a year or something. It was a lot, and it was fantastic. Loved it. I learned so much. Even though I was already a very good cook, I became an exceptional cook after culinary school. So after that, then I decided to take on pastry school. And my pastry school curriculum has been going on for probably at least a year now. I've lost track of that too. But it basically was comprised of 3 courses. The first course was like an introduction to the pastry arts, so it was a little bit of everything. Then I went through a whole bread making course, which was just extensive. What can I say? It was everything you ever wanted to know about bread and yeast and flour and all of those things. And I just finished that up. I just finished that up this month, and I got my certificate and everything. And now I'm on starting my final course, just cake decorating, cake baking and decorating, which will be my most challenging because I am not very good at decorating cakes. To me, that involves a certain amount of artistic flair, and I am no artist. So for me, cake decorating, it's art. It's like making flowers and all these, making cakes look like things that they're not. And to me, anybody who has artistic talents, like if you're a painter or a sculptor or any of those kinds of things, you probably would be great at cake decorating. I am not an artiste, so I don't know. But anyway, that course is like a 6-month course, and so I just started that. So I've been preoccupied with all of that stuff. Also, I have my last kid at home, and I have been working with him to get him ready for college and to move out because he's moving out this summer. He's graduating from high school and he's going to be going to college in the fall. All of those things. So I've been helping to get him set up to be successful, which has been a lot of footwork on my part. Yeah, and then I've also gotten more involved with my church, which is fantastic. And so I've been volunteering a lot with the church, and so that's taken a lot of my time. So I have been so busy that I have not been sitting and dreaming about the garden. I have just been doing my thing. So, long story short, or long story long, because there's nothing short about that. This is what I got going on. Now, in terms of things that have changed for me over the years, when I started gardening 4, 5, 6, I don't remember exactly how many years, but for the first 3 years, I used some different tools that really helped me, which may be helpful for any of you if you're a new gardener. Apps. Apps are fantastic. And so there were 2 apps that I used pretty religiously. One was by Grow Veg, which is one word, GROWVEG. They have a whole website and everything, but they have this garden planner app. And I used that for the first 3 years because I had no idea. All of this is self-taught, right? So I had no idea of how to grow anything. I had no idea of where to put stuff, of the spacing that you need between different kinds of crops. I didn't know any of that stuff. I didn't know anything about pests. I didn't know anything about companion. And so I got this Grow Veg app, which helped me plan out a physical layout of my garden. Literally, it's like you map it out and you build it in the app. So that was really helpful for me. It was helpful in knowing how many of what I could plant where. It was helpful in telling me when to plant what. It was helpful in telling me what I could succession plant and when to do it. So I relied heavily on that Grow Veg app, that garden planner, and I can't remember how much it cost. It was $20 or $30 a year, somewhere in there. And I think I used that for about the first 3 years. Now I don't need it because I know the things I like to grow. I know how it works. I know when to plant them and all of that good stuff. So I don't need it anymore. The other app I used was called Picture This. And it was a plant identification app. But it also would identify if you have any kind of pest damage or damage to your plants. It would tell you what kind of pest it likely was that damaged the plant. It would also tell you if the plant had a disease, what it likely was. So that was invaluable because I didn't even know what these plants were supposed to look like when they were small. I mean, we all know what a sunflower looks like when it's a sunflower, right? When it's bloomed, when it's big. But when it's a tiny, 3-inch plant, it doesn't look the same. And so I didn't know what was a weed from a flower, from whatever. And so that app, you could take a picture of your plant and it would quickly identify what it was, and it kept things in a database for you and all of that. Now, again, that was another one I kept for 2 or 3 years, and that was probably, I don't know, $20 or $30 a year for that one too. Now I can identify a lot of things that I grow regularly, and the things that I don't, I just simply take a regular picture of it with my smartphone. And I have an Android phone, so then I use Google, and Google, it has some kind of little drop down where you can search for that image across the web. So when I do that search, it'll pull up the name of whatever that is. So that's how I identify plants now that I'm not quite sure about. So yeah, that is what I do. So what else do I got going on? I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing I wanted to mention I have a lot of gardening books. When I started gardening, I relied heavily on books about gardening, how to grow a garden, how to grow vegetables, how to grow flowers. And so I have a lot of ones that you would consider probably classics, I guess, in the field of gardening. And I'm not going to talk about all those today. I could do a whole separate video on my collection of gardening books. Maybe I will down the road. But I did want to point out this one just because it's beautiful. And when it's so cold and so snowy here, it's been snowing here every day. It's in the teens, like every day. It's freezing here. So when it's so cold, it's nice to at least look at something that makes you think of warmer times and warmer weather to come. So this book I have had for a while, and I haven't even read the whole thing. It's called Floriography. So it says it's an illustrated guide to the Victorian language of flowers. Now, I think I got this off of Amazon, which is where I get all my books, really. And I liked it because it's kind of like a, coffee table book. But what's so cool about it is it has these beautiful illustrations, see that, of flowers. So each flower has a page, and this one is like clematis, for example. Beautiful illustration of a clematis. And then it has another page which will tell you about the clematis in terms of the meaning of the name, what it pairs with, what it might mean in terms of in the olden days, if you gave someone that flower, the meaning behind it. So for clematis, for example, it says meaning is cleverness. The origin, clematis, named for its cunning ability to climb up walls and trellises, is easily associated with cleverness and ingenuity. This vining bloom never fails to find its way up difficult terrain, often engulfing its surroundings once it has taken hold. Pair with rosemary and clover as a good luck gift before an exam. Pair with mistletoe to show your clever problem solving will overcome challenge. So it's just the cutest little book with all of these illustrations. That one's a dogwood, and the meanings behind them. And if you want, you can give it to someone in a bouquet or whatever, and it has a certain meaning. So this is a beautiful little book, and it wasn't very expensive when I got it. I wouldn't have bought it if it was. So it probably was discounted, but I like that one. So I am going to be perusing this, just kind of flipping through this here over the next couple of weeks to give me some inspiration to get revved up and get out there in the garden. So I think that's all I have for today. I'll put at the end a little short segment on the stuff I get growing in the basement. If you have any questions or anything, you can leave those in the comments. I'm not going to go too deep into seed starting and all that. Again, that could be a whole nother video on seed starting and the whole procedure and where to get supplies and all of that. I just kind of wanted to give a brief overview of where I am right now at the beginning of this gardening season and what I'm planning coming up here over the next few weeks. So, with all that being said, I'll see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.
Alright, so I am down in my little seed starting area of the basement. This is a dark corner of the basement with a bunch of stuff that I have stored down here, but what I have is this shelving unit, and I just attached some LED lights to each rack with, I think they came with little chains, and I might have used zip ties too, and then I put like a cover over it, which I don't know, it's a cover for a wire rack. So I just put that over it to kind of hold in some heat. There's heating mats in here. I like to use the heating mats when I first start the seeds, and then when about half of them are up, I take the tray off the mats. And I got a little fan in here in case as it gets warmer in the season, it'll get humid down here in the basement. It's cold now on this side. My basement is about a third of it is finished, and it's a big just a big space that I use for like my workout room and sewing room all in one. And then the rest is like all storage. And I have another workout area in the unfinished side. But this little corner over here, there's a lot of stuff. Ignore that. But I have another shelf that has appliances and also has some gardening stuff. I got my, it's a little beverage fridge, but I use it when I make cheese because it doesn't get super cold. So it's perfect for aging cheese. And then I have one of my freezers here, a little deep freezer. And then over there is all of my patterns. I have a system of storing sewing patterns. And so I keep them all in these little manila envelopes and they're all organized. And so I can just come here and get whatever one I need. And then this is my grow tent, which is, I believe, 4 feet by 8 feet, I'm thinking. And here, I don't have much in here now. I have 2 fig trees that I overwintered in here because I'm finding that the figs I have outside, although I was assured that they were suitable for zone 6A, the figs never mature before the frost comes, and so they always die. So I have yet to get a fig. So I got these 2. I have like 2 outside, 2 or 3 outside, maybe 2 that are in the ground. But these 2 I put in pots intentionally so that I can bring these 2 in every winter and then take them back out when it gets warm, and I'll set them outside. But I just want to see if this will help me get figs. If it works, then great. I'll just keep lugging them in. If it doesn't, then I'll probably just put these in the ground and call it a day. So in here, sometimes I grow things in the winter, depending on what I want to do. I didn't grow anything this winter in here. I also have 2 tables. There's one here and there's another one I sit here. So that during my seed starting season, what I do is once the seedlings germinate in that other rack I just showed you and get kind of too tall for that because those are fixed shelves, then I bring them in here and put them on the tables, because these lights, there's 4 lights, they can lower and I can raise them, so they're on like a little pulley. And so I can have things in here growing indefinitely. I mean, really, I can grow in here all year. This also has air filtration, which I'm not using because I don't have anything stinky that I need to close up. But it's possible to have this thing clean the air before it takes it out of the tent. And then there's a big, excuse my shoes, there's another big tube of exhaust where it'll dump the exchanged air out. So that's only for when I'm growing something that has like, that's stinky or has a lot of scent or something, and I want to close this up because I don't want to smell it or see it. But I'm not doing that, obviously. So there are fans in here. There's a dehumidifier in here because once it starts getting warm, it gets very humid in this basement. And that's kind of it. And then it's nice to clean, it's easy to clean this up because it's all this silver stuff, and so it just wipes down and sanitizes easily. So before each season I come in with some bleach water and I just sanitize the whole inside of it and call it a day. So as you can see, there's not much going on in here. These are just some fronds I cut off of a houseplant, and I wanted to see how they would dry. And because if they dry nicely, if they look good, they'd be nice in a dry flower arrangement. So we'll see how that goes. But back to my seed starting. I have started just a few things. Started a few things that it was recommended to start because they take a long time to germinate. It's been about 2 weeks. So here I have, what do I have? Pansies and geraniums. Those seem to take a long time. The pansies have yet to do anything. Some of the geraniums are coming up, but I got some petunias here as well, which, so you can see that. And I'm so happy I got a new selfie stick, which I'm using now, and it really helps me with keeping a steady picture because I tend to do a lot of my filming with the camera in my hand. It's just easier, it's simple, or I should say my phone in my hand, because most of my videos I make on my phone. So, but anywho, a lot of these pansies and geraniums I just put in pots that are outside around the house. I have pots on the deck. I have a couple of window boxes in the front, so I just put these in there if I can get them to grow. And then I got some herbs. I got cilantro, dill, and chervil going on over here, and peppers, because they allegedly take a long time to get big enough to put outside. So I got all my jalapenos, serranos, just bell peppers here. These I didn't need to plant. These are probably, it looks like sunflowers. They were just in a bag, some seeds that fell out of a pack, and I didn't know what they were, so I just planted them. I assumed they were sunflowers, but I planted them. Poblano. I got some bell peppers. So that's what's going on in here. I have the seed mat on half of it because I'm still trying to get these pansies to germinate. The only thing I dislike is because, you know, I'm growing for me, just me in my home, and so I end up with these mixed trays, and things germinate at different times. They grow at different rates, germinate at different rates, and so I end up with a tray where, you know, half of it's germinated and growing, the other half isn't, and so that's kind of a mess. It is convenient to grow all of one thing in one tray, but I don't need 72 or however many cells this is of one thing. So I'll think about that as the years go on. I figure out if I want to do something different. But anyway, down here, this one I have sitting up on some little containers because I wanted it close to the light, because these have pretty much germinated, most of it, except the onions. Onion seeds take a long time. I like to try to grow onions from seeds because it's cheaper. And there are a lot of varieties of onion seeds, enough for me. I tend to like to grow like one yellow variety, one red variety. I like to grow shallots and then green onions. So I may have to buy sets as well, but I always try the seeds if I have seeds, and I had some from last year. So as you can see, most of the onions have not germinated. Only these green onions here in this row have started to germinate. But I got all my cabbages here, spinach, Swiss chards, oregano, thyme, and lots of stock. I have 3 rows of stock. Last year, as far as I can recall, my stock did not do well. It did not survive. I tried growing it from seed and most of it died off. So I have very little stock. So I overseeded, clearly, and now I have 3 rows of stock. But, you know, it's still to be seen how many of these survive. One thing I'm finding, for me, I'm not the best at seed starting. I'm okay, but a lot of times it's hit or miss for me. And what I found that works is the sooner I can get things outside, the less they have to stay in any indoor situation or in little pots, the better off I am, because inevitably indoors I get issues, diseases, or they just stop growing or fail to thrive or whatever. So for a lot of things I am waiting until we get, like, our last frost date here is about May 10th. I'm waiting until like May 1st or something to start a lot of the things that grow pretty quickly, because I don't want them inside for too long. I want to be able to get things outside quickly. So that's all I have started so far, which 2 trays is enough, because, you know, seed starting it's a bit time consuming, at least for me. 1, it's in the basement here, my setup. 2, I have to mist these at least daily to keep the seeds wet until they actually germinate. So remembering to do that, because this is kind of tucked into a corner. So remembering to come and every day down here and water these. There are some times where I've forgotten over the seasons, but it's what I have. Is the best I can do right now. So that is all that's going on down in the seed starting area.